Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Bhadran Karnebhi Shrunuyama Devaha Bhadram Pashyema Akshabhiryajatraha Sthirairangaistuštuvagum Sastanubhi Vyashema Devahitanyadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vridhashravaha Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaha Swasti na Starksho Arishtanemihi Swasti no Brihaspatir Dadhatu Om Shanti 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 Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Yajjagrato duramudaitti daivantadu suptasya tathaivaitti durangaman jyotisham jyotirekam tanme manah Shiva sankalpamastu yena karma anyapaso manishino yajñe कृण्वन्ति विदधेषु धीराः यदा पूर्वं यक्षमन्तः प्रजानां तन्मे मनः शिव संकल्पमस्तु यत्प्रज्ञानमुत चेतो धृतिश्च यज्ज्योतिरन्तरमृतं प्रजासु यस्मान्नृते किञ्चन कर्म क्रियते तन्मे मनः शिव संकल्पमस्तु येनेदं भूतं भुवनं भविष्यत् परिगृहीतममृतेन सर्वम् येन यज्ञस्तायते सप्तहोता तन्मे मनः शिव संकल्पमस्तु यस्मिन् ऋचः सामयजूगुंषि यस्मिन् प्रतिष्ठिता रथनाभाविवाराः यस्मिन् कश्चित्तकुं सर्वमोतं प्रजानान् तन्मे मनः शिव संकल्पमस्तु सुषारथिरश्वानि वयन्मनुष्यान्नेनीयतेभिषुभिर्वाजिन इव हृत्प्रतिष्ठं यदजिरञ्जविष्ठम् तन्मे मनः शिव संकल्पमस्तु
So as I had just briefly indicated, I thought what we would do today is to focus on the mantra number 1 and do a nididhyasanam on it as well. So it would allow us to put the roots of these thoughts, of these Vedic thoughts, deeper into ourselves, really. So this is an interesting thing about the depth of it, and this is something that I saw in one of the discourses by the Swamis, and so it is not; these are not my thoughts; these are really recommendations from the Swamis. So what they said is that Nididhyasanam, as you know, is to establish the validity of what you have already heard, but not completely accepted until you look into it. So that's one way to look at Nididhyasanam. But I think this one commentary by the Acharya, which I'm just adopting here when we are doing the Nididhyasanam, is that it allows our thoughts that were relatively shallow when we are listening to a teacher and studying about it and so on, to become deeper, the roots to become deeper. This is one of a good way to look at Nididhyasanam. So one way to look at that is also, if you just carry that simile a little bit more, when you put the seeds down and you make sure that there is enough water and sunlight and so on in the growth of a plant, it is still very, very fragile and really has not had a chance to establish its own roots. So it requires a lot of help, requires care from time to time. But then as you make the roots grow deeper, it clings to the earth on its own and draws the energy from the earth and requires less and less about your support. So I think the Nididhyasanam is a way to deepen the roots of your thoughts into yourself. Very good way to look at it, I think. Because I think what happens is that if you don't do that enough, it requires a lot of effort to do this. If you don't do it enough, then you are vulnerable for the plant not to survive, because something can knock it over, something can dry out and so on, those kinds of things. But I think that if you, with some practice, deepen the roots of your thoughts, then they have a better chance of maintaining your equilibrium during the day and to remember what the lessons of the Vedanta are. So that's really the meaning of it. So I thought what I would do is very quickly revise verse number 1, because Nididhyasanam, as you know, is a special form of meditation. And we'll go into that a little bit more later. But briefly, it means meditation on what you have learned and is active in your mind. Because oftentimes, in our social setting, they will all say, I also meditate. Do you meditate? Oh, good, you're also meditating. What, and they don't. Nobody ever, this is the interesting thing, nobody ever says, what do you meditate on? They'll just say, do you meditate? I meditate. And in most cases, what that means, in almost all cases what it means, unless you're a Vedantin, that the meditation that people look at is quietening the mind down. That's it. But Nididhyasanam starts where the phase of quietening the mind ends. Really, this is what we need to do, because your ignorance still is preserved even if your mind is quiet. And in fact, a very beautiful thing that during the night your mind is not only quiet, it disappears. It's the height of quietness. And yet you get up in the morning, know any better. I'm a jiva, I'm the samsari, I've got problems, this, that. So that sense of error hasn't gone yet. And so what you need is a vritti jnanam. So the vritti, anyway, we'll go into this a little bit more later on when we go into meditation. So I'll stop here. And so what we will do, what I was saying to summarize was that nididhyasana means that you recall the Shruti Vakyas that are asking you to correct this error about yourself. So you have to recall what the Shruti Vakya is before you can do meditation. So this is what we're doing. We are just recalling the words of the mantra, followed by a brief meaning of the mantra. This is refreshing. We have already done it. And then once we have done that, we will do a short meditation. So this is what we intend to do. So as I mentioned to you, this is we cannot do this if we were studying, you can do it, but Bhagavad Gita has so many verses, so many shlokas, that if you were to do this for every shloka, it'll take a long time. But here we are fortunate, we are only doing 6 mantras, and so we can follow this prakriya of words, meaning, and nididhyasanam all in one session. So let's try to do that. Okay, so what we've already seen is, so in this first mantra, there are 2 lines with slightly different aspects of pointing out what the Veda wants us to do, wants us to think about. One is the behavior of our mind. Observe how it's behaving. And you cannot do that until you consciously stand apart from it and just say, oh, I see what you're doing. If you're involved in it, this is exactly what happens. We are so involved we have a non-separation between me and my mind. And so we become a participant. But an observation of the behavior of the mind requires stepping back and looking at it. And here with the help of the Shastra, because as a jiva, and this we went over, by the way, in the last class, this aspect that I'm just going to briefly mention, I won't spend much time on it. So basically when we are born and we grow up as a normal child, healthy child, our mind hasn't been shaped yet. It's a natural mind, which is what's called prakrita manaha. So prakrita manaha means that just kind of like a piece of rock, so to speak, that hasn't been carved yet. And so the piece of rock means that you observe the interaction with the outside world, and with the help of some help with your parents and teachers and so on, you do the best you can. But it really hasn't been shaped yet for the ultimate goal that you want. And we will go into this now in a bit more detail. What do you mean by ultimate goal? Okay, so next we will go into that. But basically what it means is that our mind hasn't been shaped, modified, trained, educated yet. And so I'm left up to my vasanas and my samskaras. And as best as we can just, behave in the way we are used to. with some learning, some small learning here and there. But here the Shastra says, I'll point out why this is not working for you, Shastra says. And here's what you need to do. Here's what you need to think about. So as part of that, this is the first line is, observe your mind. And what I will do, it's very interesting. Just recently I was looking at, I'm revising the Vaithatya Prakaranam, the second Prakaranam of Mandukya Karika. And in the commentary on, I think, I can't remember the exact verse, mantra from, or shloka really, shloka from this, the second Prakarana, but I think it's on page 258 of the Vaithatya Prakarana, if those of you that are following the Hindi, you want to do that. So there, Swami Akhandananda actually refers to first this mantra number 1 and gives some very interesting commentary on it. So I will actually borrow his ideas as we are doing it here. Eventually, when we come to it in some time, we will look at it separately in more detail, but I think I'll bring those ideas here in the analysis of the first mantra. Okay? All right. So anyway, just to proceed systematically, the first line, as I mentioned, is to follow the advice of the Shastra in observing the behavior of my mind. And this we will borrow some more ideas from Swami, from Akhandananda ji later. The second line is to analyze how it works, to draw some conclusions from it. First line is to look at the behavior. Second line is to draw some conclusions, and not just draw some conclusions, take corrective actions. Tan me manah Shiva Sankalpa. Corrective action. So this is the structure of the first verse. Okay? So I think you have, I can very quickly go over the word meanings. So yat jagrataha, while it is awake, duram udaiti, it goes far. This daivam, so this sports person who's playing is daivam, jyotihi. And then tadu suptasya tatha eva eti. And when it is time to go to sleep, it comes back to you. Throws itself out and then comes back to you. Doesn't get lost. Its residence is you. It's your mind. Goes out and comes back. And the second line, duram gaman jyotisham jyotihi ekam. So he says, duram gaman means the one that goes far, meaning here, the one that expresses itself in a formful fashion. That mind is actually a conscious mind which has an origin in you, the consciousness. And so there the analogy, and we have talked about this much before, I'll just quickly bring in it, is that your mind is an appliance that borrows the same electricity that you are, and then expresses itself in different ways. So this is the culmination of the analysis of the first line. And then what is the implication of this will be given in the corrective action. So this is kind of like a brief meaning of the words. Okay, now let us see the importance of this in another way. Okay, very beautifully pointed out. So this part here that I'm going to now go over was directly borrowed. I wasn't even planning to do this until I saw that passage in the Vaithatya Prakaranam on page number 257, 258, 259, 60, 61, about 5 or 6 pages. Beautiful pages. A beautiful commentary on those pages. So I borrowed those ideas from here. So that's what we should think about. So here, one of the key words to think about is the word called Paramartha. Paramartha. It's very, very useful to look at it this way. So Paramartha means the Parama out of the Arthas. What is Artha? Arthyate iti Artha. Means one that is desired is the Artha. What is desired by us is called Artha. Okay, so let's start with that segment of Paramartha. Parama Artha. Artha means what is desired by us. And as you know very well, this has already been codified in Vedanta. You've all studied that you can codify it in 4 different segments. One is Artha. So Artha is an overall name as well as an individual name. Like sometimes Manaha is an overall name, but also Manaha, Buddhihi, Ahankara, etc. So it serves both a complete segment name as well as a sub-segment name. So similarly, 4 Arthas are Artha, Kama, Dharma and Moksha. So if you analyze our behavior, our way we lead our life, Artha means security. Security now and security later. So that is something desired, and it's a very natural desire. It's given to us by Ishvara. Nobody wants to be in danger. Nobody wants to be insecure. That's why you take insurances. That's why you drive carefully. You don't want to be hurt. You want to be secure. This is number one. And after you have gained some security and you've got a steady job, you have some money in the bank to tide over, you have food on the plate. If you have a family, you are taking care of the family. This is the Artha part of it. Then comes the second part, which is some fun, some pleasure. So that all is encompassed or compensated in Kama. Then the third one is to look for the future, to look for some punya, some deeds that will lead me into a better future, both in this life as well as in the next life, possibly. So that has to do with dharma. So now each 3 of them are called artha. And for the fulfillment of these 3 artha, the mind plays a major role. So this is the connection. The mind plays a major role because what you gain in terms of security, pleasure, dharma, etc., mind is involved. You depend upon the mind to do so. It guides you. But what you want in life, if you analyze, is not artha, all these three, because those three are available to you and you don't know what to do anything else, so you resort to them. But the real artha is paramartha. Paramartha. So paramartha means out of all the arthas, one which is param. Param means the real, the superior, the best, from many different ways. So, one way to look at this is that the individual arthas, which are guided by the mind, are really short term, not completely reliable, not completely consistent, but they give you some satisfaction for the time being, which is necessary for you to maintain your equilibrium in life. So it's not as though they are useless, but they are not the ultimate. And in the guiding of those arthas, the mind actually misguides you. Misguides you. And is not consistent, it's not sincere. It somehow makes do for the time being. Here's Swami Akhandananda has given beautiful examples of this, so I'll just pick one or two out of those. He says, let's look at this. Suppose you have a drink of a new drink that you got, which is very tasty, and you say, like a youngster discovering Coca-Cola or Pepsi, something like that. Or you can say in terms of food, discovering something really pleasurable food. So the mind your mind says, this is good. I think this is good. Let's have it again. So sometimes you go to some friend's place and you're given some new drink. Like, they have these Italian, made in Italy fizzes with some fruit flavor in it. And my older granddaughters and so on, and their whole family, my son's family, they all like all these kinds of new things. My wife and I, when we go to their place, and we says, where did you get this from? I say, oh, this is a brand new that just came in, and you can get it from, Safeway or Whole Foods. Whole Foods is the one that has to keep all these fizzy things that are expensive. So they got it from there. So your mind says, you know what, this is wonderful. I think we should buy a 6-pack. Or better still, 12-pack. And let's just have it every day, because this is very nice. So you start drinking, supposing you like it. How much do you like the first day? You're not going to like the same the second day, because you've already had it. But supposing your mind says, hey, let's have it again. So you have it 3 or 4 days, then the mind says, you know what, I think we need to try something new. Hey, wait a minute. You told me this is what I was supposed to have pleasure. Now you change your focus, and he said, no. So he says, well, I told you it was good, but I didn't say it was good forever. Okay, tell me something which is good forever. Okay, let's try doing this. I think we should just go on travel. Let's travel. That would be wonderful. So you say, okay, let's travel. Last time we traveled, it was so good. Let's travel again. And after a while, you say, it doesn't do anything for me. It says so much involved. Anyway, so like that, the mind keeps changing. It does not give you a consistent way to satisfy your desire. Okay. Now let us, and so one thing to, before I go further, one thing to look at it is that it is kind of like, and this is an important analogy that we know about, and we should bring it in this context. And that is that you may like some individual ornaments. And the ornament that you like one day, it's very possible that you get tired of it after a while. You want to change it. So all those things can happen. Your desire for ornamentation may change, will change. Just like your desire for drinks and food, etc. will change, does change. But it is not, so this is kind of like artha, arthyate iti artha, but it is not paramartha. Paramartha means the one which is the most superior because it is the nature of something that does not change. That is paramartha. So here, in this context, the gold itself, or in places of, or in various pieces, not places, pieces of clay, pieces of cups and so on, clay becomes the paramartha. Doesn't change. You can make shape out of it and it dissolves back. So that is the analogy of paramartha. And the other thing is that you cannot depend on your mind to give you paramartha. Why not? It doesn't know how. It does the best it can, given the circumstances. But it doesn't know what is permanent. What is paramartha, it doesn't know. It only knows artha. And it plays its own tricks. It keeps you temporarily satisfied so you can keep going. But as far as achieving paramartha, it's unable to do so. Let's take it to another level now. Okay? And that is it's a very interesting thing. It's a kind of like so going back to the paramartha, but I'll take off from it in a minute. Look at the irony of this, the tragic irony of this. Either you say, you know what, let me give up my desire for paramartha. It cannot be done. You cannot give it up because your nature is paramartha. And whatever your nature is, you cannot give it up. And yet you cannot satisfy it. What a tragic situation. You cannot give it up and you cannot obtain it. And this manifests in various ways where your mind is supposed to give you ananda, tries to give you ananda. Ananda means paramartha ananda. Yes, Paramarthananda. Yes, what a beautiful name Swamiji, Puja Swamiji gave to Paramarthananda ji. So the Paramarthananda is what you want, but you cannot get it through the mind. and again it disappoints you. You think you have it, but you don't. And this is a culmination of the first line, that you observe the behavior of the mind, that you're depending on something that is not able to give you what you want consistently. It can give you for a short term. So it's an instrument which is unreliable and not capable of delivering what you really want in your life, which is Paramarthananda. So this is kind of like the first part of the mantra. The second part of the mantra explains the solution. Because you cannot, this is, as I said, this is a very tragic thing, that you cannot give up and you cannot gain it. Is this how this Srishti is made? Is this some kind of a cruel joke? So the Shastra says no. You're not looking at it the right way. There is in fact a solution, and you need to understand what that solution is. If you understand what the solution is, then this will no longer become a tragic trick. It'll still remain a trick, but it'll be not a tragic trick. And that is given in the second line, which says, Yat Jyotisham Jyoti. Duram Gaman Jyotisham Jyoti. So what that means is, Shastra says, look, there is an unreality about this mind which you have not yet discovered. You are going along with it because you seek anarthas, therefore it becomes very real to you, very purposeful for you, you are committed to it. I understand that. But it is not, it is not real. There's some problem with it. It's not its own. The Jyoti is not its own. What it attracts you is not its own. Do you know what? It borrows that from you. Borrows that from me? How is that possible? So there Shastra says, please follow. Follow what I'm saying. I'm telling you, this is exactly what is going on. So he says, Jyotisham Jyoti Ekam. Daivam Ekam Jyotisham Jyoti. So there it gives the phenomena that really speaking, what you are totally engrossed in, without understanding how the Jyoti of the mind is coming about, is giving you a problem. And there lots of analogies are given and so on, but it says there is one Jyoti, there is one conscious entity in the whole creation. Whole creation. They are not separate conscious entities, as some of the other matas believe in, other schools of thought. one conscious entity. Eka Jivavada. Why is that? Because that can never become an object. Why can't it become an object? Why can't a Jyoti be an object? Because if it is an object, who's going to observe it? An observer is always superior to the observed. So if there is another Jyoti, which is the ultimate Jyoti, and it is an object, and you are, who's looking at that object? You. So that means that I am a Jyoti of the Jyoti. Then how do I know this is I'm the ultimate? Maybe somebody else is doing that. This becomes an infinite problem. No, this doesn't work this way. There is in fact a single Jyoti. It doesn't need to work any other way. This is the way it works. And what it means is there is a single Jyoti. Just the same analogy of the electricity. There doesn't need to be multiple electricity. There we can see there's a 220 volt and 110 volt. We're not talking about those kinds of things. But if you just look at the conceptual electricity, this is one electricity. But it can now behave in various ways. Because that's what life is all about. Sometimes you need light, sometimes you need heat, sometimes you need air conditioners. Why is the same Jyoti? So similarly here also in our mind, it behaves differently. Sometimes it is, sometimes it gives you some fun, sometimes it gives you some problems. But it's the same different aspects of the same Jyoti. So this is the solution to the problem of not finding Paramarthananda, Ananda of the Paramartha. Because you're so enamored in arthas but not in Paramartha that you do not see the distinction between real and reflected, real and mithya. And once you reflect upon it deeply in your own mind, and it has to be done with a mind. And what kind of a mind? Not something which is left on its own, but one which is educated. So vritti jnanam is, so jnanam means, mind means vritti, means a formful vritti. So the formful vritti is the one that dispels wrong vritti. Formful correct vritti dispels formful wrong vritti. So the mindlessness of the meditation does not help. It is the mindfulness of the meditation where you have vritti jnanam, jnana purvakam vritti, that helps. So that is the solution. Tanme manaha Shiva Sankalpamastu. O mind, follow this Sankalpa. Shastra says this is the way to eliminate any doubts that you are the very Paramartha. And that's what you have to do. So this is kind of like the background of the verse, explanation of the verse, some ideas about. So now I think we can do some nididhyasanam based on that. So let's do that. Okay, so that will be our culmination. So let's do this. Please take a comfortable seat. In fact, let me turn off a couple of these lights that are shining in my eyes. In fact, one more. I'll leave some light. Om. I begin my nididhyasanam with a promise to myself and to my mind that this meditation, this nididhyasanam, is to focus on the Paramartha Swarupa of my life, meaning not any pursuits and desires for something that comes and goes. Kind of like a role that a person can assume, which does not change the person's, the actor's reality. Similarly, O mind, my Sankalpa is to find and to focus on the Paramartha. I am not interested in Artha, and the Paramartha is the Paramatma, Shiva. With that Sankalpa, we see the meaning of Paramartha. I am a conscious entity I'm a conscious being by nature. By nature. Not by connection. Not by a condition, but by nature. I am. I am aware. And I have no boundaries. I do not have any limits. I am, and I'm conscious. Satyam, Jnanam, and Anantam. My Satyam is Anantam. There's no limits. But my behavior and actions in life are involving the mind. When you think of a distant place, that is a state of the mind. Your mind can take you far without your going there. You are what you are, right here and now, never going far, never going near. If you think there is a place left of you, that thinking is with respect to the mind. There is no place left of you. If you think of a place left or right of you, that also involves you, who doesn't go anywhere. You don't go to the left. You don't go far. You are what you are. Your mind can go, but you don't. See this fact. I am without any form. All forms of left and right, similarly past, the present, the future, pleasant, unpleasant, are all forms based on the mind, not on me. Paramartha Tattvam is there is no West. Deshataha apparichinnaha. From the standpoint of space, there is no left, no right. There is just space. And the space is also dependent on I, the conscious entity. There is no thing as space. This is the truth. Similarly, past, present, and the future are also states of the mind. They are not my states. I always am. Satyam Jnanam Anantam. Regardless of Deshataha Parichinnatvam, Kalataha Parichinnatvam, Vastutaha Parichinnatvam. All these are forms that cannot be if I am not there. And I am always there. You cannot erase yourself, even if you wanted to. It is not up to you. You can only erase the forms that depend on you. But you are the Vastu. You are the solid stuff that the world is made out of. See this. This is a fact. Ahamasmi sadabhami. I am, and I'm aware. Same entity. Ananantam Anandaswarupam. One which is indestructible. How can it not be Ananda? Time cannot touch it. Even the basics of the creation cannot touch me, let alone the effects of the creation. The basics of the creation are time and space. They are just the imagination of the mind. The mind itself is mithya. So naturally its projections are also unreal. But it cannot touch the reality of myself. Just think over it. Once our minds get educated, it says, yes, I see this. Shastra says that all forms, all happenings leave no effect on you. If you have some problems, some events, some happenings, they will play in you for a while and then dissolve in you. This is what is called vivarta upadanatvam. A change without a change. Like the formation of ornaments from a metal. There is a temporary appearance of a change, but there is no change. If we have some problems that occur in our lives, we should just observe their temporary nature, how they seem to arise from me, within me, covering me as though, and then they disappear. dissolve back into me. Even strong problems, dukkha, the death of a living friend or a relative, that dukkha is also temporary. It cannot leave any marks on you. If it appears to leave a mark on you, it is because you have not thought through. You continue to maintain its effect, but it has no mark on you. Pleasure and pain, sukha dukkha, are all plays of the mind. You are the vivarta upadana karanam, sustaining the change on a temporary basis and see its dissolution in yourself. No effect. Formfulness has no effect on the formlessness of yourself. That formlessness is the Paramartha Satyam. That is the Shiva. So through this mantra, my Sankalpa is, O mind, I understand the game you are playing with me. I was going along with you until I understood what you really are. And now I want to hasten you towards the resolution of this jnanam, this vritti jnanam, that I am a conscious vastu, satyam jnanam anantam. This is the nature of Paramartha Satyam, Shivam. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Nice to have you, Dinesh. That's good that you're attending this class. All right. So hopefully that was helpful. So, obviously the meditation had a lot going on. I tried to pack a lot of stuff in there, but I think in your own practice of Nididhyasana, which you already do, I'm not suggesting that this is something brand new for you, but just to reiterate, in meditation, to be very effective in a Vedantic sense, should bring to your mind certain truths that you were impressed by when you first heard it, but it hasn't really sustained itself yet. So you bring it out consciously to your mind and then relax to see the truth of that in your life. That is what Nididhyasanam is. So, there you can take out different aspects of it, as we will do in these mantras, but you can do it in other cases also. Like, for example, supposing you say anadihi. So, anadihi means one where the fact of the matter is we have a wrong conception that we were born at a particular time. So, there the Nididhyasanam will be based on what errors you make. When you say I was born, you really should be referring to the body and mind complex, and that's not what the Shastra is saying. It says you were never born. And so just dwelling on that part of it is something very beautiful. Same thing on Satyam Jnanam Anantam. The Anantyam, you understand the fact that there is no end to my beingness. And if there is a perceived end to my beingness, it is with respect to an erroneous change of scenery that I am now saying that my body may be ending. And we're not talking about that. That you as a conscious entity cannot end. Has no limitation. Anyway, I'm not starting a new class. All I'm saying is that the nature of Nididhyasanam is that it is based on Vedantic truths that you now become more skilled in bringing up at your leisure, thinking about it, letting it dwell. So meditation is not calming of the mind. Calming of the mind is necessary to do all this, but this is much more than that. Anyway, so that is what Nitidhyasanam is, and we will be doing that for 5 more of these classes. I wanted to let you know that unfortunately we will not have a class next Tuesday. I'm going to be out of town and it will be very difficult for me to set up where I'm going. So we will meet again on the Tuesday class 2 weeks from today. And I will send you an email with all of that. And the Saturday night class, Saturday morning class, Saturday night, I'm talking about the TV program. The Saturday morning class we will have on the 16th, and we'll talk about the Christmas at that time. And perhaps I will revise the program based on Christmas and New Year's. So I'll try to do that. But certainly for this class, please make a note that there is no class next Tuesday, but we will meet again 2 weeks from today. Okay? Hari Om.